fun fact that a lot of people don't know is that NAWCTSD is actually located on the smallest Navy base in the world. But the work that we do touches nearly every sailor out there.
Where is there opportunities for small businesses and all of that?
There are small business opportunities sprinkled throughout. We did over 30% of our procurement dollars with small businesses. Actually, one of the things that we tell the small businesses all the time is before you request a meeting with one of us, myself included, we really want you to do your homework. But we have iterated it over time and made it a little more user-friendly and visually appealing.
How can businesses make their capability statement stand out?
In either case, I think it's important to make sure that the capabilities that your company provides is really going to solve a problem or fit within a procurement that we actually have on our forecast.
It sounds very complicated, the work that you do.
Please, please, please don't simply respond by sending us your generic capability statement.
All right, Leslie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Hey, great to be here. My name is Leslie Faircloth, and I am the deputy of the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, Office of Small Business Programs. And Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, since that's such a mouthful, we do shorten it to NAWCTSD or NAWCTSD.
I like knock TSD.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say, not quite as much of a mouthful.
Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, and then on top of that, you're the Office of Small Business Programs Deputy Director.
Director.
Director. Okay. Well, can you just start off by really quickly telling us a little bit about what is it that you guys do and what do you cover, since you're under Nav Air? And then, and with that, can you talk about the different organizations within the Navy, just as a brief overview?
Sure, sure. I'll start with what we do at NOCTSD, right? So, a fun fact that a lot of people don't know is that NOCTSD is actually located on the smallest Navy base in the world. But the work that we do touches nearly every sailor out there. Um, Basically, our mission is to provide R&D, test and evaluation, acquisition, and product support for training systems across the DoD, right? And that's everything from, trainers such as flight simulators or ship navigation systems that are within the continental United States or CONUS and across the globe, or what we call OCONUS. It's basically overseas operations. Um, we've got four primary product lines that provide training systems, training content, training services, and intellectual services. Um, we've got approximately 3,400 teammates that support approximately 1,800 training devices worldwide. There's 159 different sites worldwide. Um, and we are proud of the fact that we maintain operational availability of those trainers approximately 98%.
Okay.
So, in a nutshell, we buy, like I said, training systems, the training content, such as the curriculum, or
Mm,
maybe we buy the instructors to conduct the curriculum. And we
okay.
also buy the services that keep those trainers up and running to make sure that we can maintain that 98% availability so that our sailors and Marines are able to train for their particular area of expertise to be able to be ready to support us in times of war and in times of peace. Um, you wanted me to talk a little bit about the Navy buying commands. Did you want me to get into Navy or really more of the NAVAIR? Because of course we've got the greater Navy, right? And NAVAIR is just one of the buying commands that falls under the Navy. There are actually 10 Navy buying commands.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted people to understand that there's the camp, the commands, some examples, and then we'll specifically focus on NAVAIR.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. So within the NAVAIR portfolio, so there are different sites, different commands that, or I'll call them different sites that fall under the NAVAIR command. So NAWCTSD in Orlando, we're one of the warfare centers. There's also a warfare center out at it's called the Weapons Division out in China Lake. We also have the NOC Aircraft Division, which is located up at Pax River, and then another NOC Aircraft Division that is specifically located in Lakehurst, and they deal with the uh, arresting gear for launching the planes off of aircraft.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So if someone small business wise, right? I mean, it sounds very complicated, the work that you do. How, where is there opportunities for small businesses and all of that?
There are small business opportunities sprinkled throughout. I would say that NOCTSD has a really great set of opportunities that are appropriate for small businesses. We did over 30% of our procurement dollars with small businesses. It was more than that. I don't have the exact figures up in front of me, but we had a really stellar year in FY24. Knock Lakehurst, Knock AD Lakehurst also has an incredible amount of opportunities for small businesses. I think they did something around 70% in small business total obligations. So that's incredible. But at all the sites, and even including the headquarters, there are opportunities for small business. Um, Headquarters tends to have kind of the larger efforts that tend to go to like a Lockheed Martin, a Boeing, some of
Right.
the really, really large primes. But even in those instances, there are opportunities for small businesses to participate as subcontractors. So there's a lot of opportunity there. It's really important for the small businesses just to know based on the type of capabilities that they have, where do they really fit? If they're looking at NAVAIR in particular, they need to probably understand a little bit more about what each site buys. For example, not TSD, we buy training systems, like I mentioned before, the content and the services to keep the training systems running. Um, but each one of the sites really focuses on something different. Great example, we talked about NOC Weapons Division out in China Lake. They're dealing with weapons systems,
Right.
right? So if a small business is interested in doing business with NAVAIR, one great way for them to learn a little bit more about where they may fit in would be to attend one of our general info sessions. That's
Okay.
something that is put on through the NAVAIR Office of Small Business Programs. It's a monthly info session where anybody can sign up and listen in. It's an hour presentation. We kind of dive into more details on, what NAVAIR is, how to navigate sites, how to find opportunities, and a little bit about what each particular site buys. So that is a great primer and it's possible that some small businesses may want to dabble in multiple sites, or if they have really specialized capabilities that aligns with one particular site, then they may want to start by just focusing on that site before they try and maybe broaden into the other sites within NAVAIR or across the Navy, of course.
What resources or other platforms like a sam.gov should small
Mhm.
business utilize immediately to identify opportunities with NOC TSD?
Ooh. I love this question. So actually, one of the things that we tell the small businesses all the time is before you request a meeting with one of us, myself included, we really want you to do your homework. Well, what in the heck does that mean? How do they do their homework?
Right.
Well, the first thing that I would recommend is it's really simple, right? The first step is just go to that buying commands website. So, for example, if they're looking to do business with NAWCTSD,
Hmm.
check out NAWCTSD's homepage. It
Hmm.
tells a lot about our mission, our vision. It shows examples of some of the training systems that we have fielded. It is chock full of information. But in particular, what I want to point out to the small businesses is NOCTSD OSBP, Office of Small Business Programs, actually has put together an info sheet. It's called, appropriately, the Doing Business with NOCTSD info sheet. And that particular info sheet provides a lot of information that can be really, really helpful to smalls that think they might be interested in doing business with us, but maybe they just don't know enough, or maybe they know enough about us, but they want to learn how to find opportunities and that kind of thing, right? So that particular artifact can be found directly on our website, and that is navair.navy.mil/NAWCTSD. If you click on that little hamburger menu up in the right-hand corner and select business opportunities, you'll see a selection for small business programs. If you navigate there, then there's a downloadable file for this doing business with NOCTSD info sheet. And that provides information about what we buy, what our research interests are, where to find opportunities, i.e. the acquisition forecasts, how to get connected in our ecosystem, how we communicate with industry, and a whole lot more. So it is an excellent tool to get started in preparation for any meeting with me or any of our program managers.
Can you go take us back to that website again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.navair, Navair, .navy.mil/NAWCTSD. And you're going to look under business opportunities
Okay.
and you'll see small business programs. Click on that link, it'll take you right there. Well,
Okay.
also that site where you download the info sheet also provides our small business goals and our achievements from the previous fiscal year. So FY24, where we ended up, if you want to see, we are very open. We share. We met all of our goals with the exception of one, and that was women-owned small business. I think we missed that one by like 0.2%. So close. But yeah, we've got a lot of information there that will really help our small businesses as a first step. Now, this is something that I send to businesses that request meetings with me. Unfortunately, I have had many, many experiences where I hop on the meeting with the firm and they either have not thoroughly looked at that info sheet or they haven't looked at it at all. And that's really doing a disservice to us both, right? It's a bit of a time waster because you're going to get a whole lot more out of the conversation if you've taken a look at all the information. And I don't expect anybody to walk away from that info sheet and go, oh, now everything is crystal clear. I know how to find everything. But it will step you through a lot of info and you may come across things that you have questions on, and then we can use that as a springboard to dig a little deeper during our conversations.
No, absolutely. I'm looking at it now, and it talks about cyber readiness for small businesses, where to find opportunities, how to get connected, and then what NOC buys, research, and interest. And it
Yeah,
even includes awards over 100K, obligations, Mac vehicles, and prime contractor POCs. So it is
yeah,
chock full of information. It was very well done. A lot of organizations do not have something like this. So
Yes.
kudos to you for or your team for whoever put this together.
Yes, it was a team effort. It was something that I started a long, long time ago, and it looked really ugly when it first started, but it was just a matter of pulling the information together in one space so that we could share it. But we have iterated it over time and made it a little more user-friendly and visually appealing.
No, that's great. Actually, I also found digging around on your LinkedIn profile
Mhm.
this brief that you had recently. It's called the NAWCTSD OSBP brief, November
Yes.
2024. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I dig around. We can find some information by digging around and looking and stuff. And
We
uh,
can. You did
it,
your homework.
that's that's what I teach people to do. So I have to kind of follow my own
Yeah.
protocol, right? Makes sense.
Yes,
But no,
yes.
this is great. I love this. Um, so now we've done our homework. We are very well aware of what you're buying. How can businesses make their capability statement stand out to your team when submitting for opportunities?
So I'm going to come at this from kind of a two-pronged approach because
Sure.
what I see is, we kind of have, general capability statements and capability briefs that we receive at any time that are not necessarily directed at a particular procurement. And then we also have responses to, let's say, a source's sought notice where they are very tailored and they're providing information for a specific action
Okay.
that was announced. So, in either case, I think it's important to make sure that the capabilities that your company provides is really going to solve a problem or fit within a procurement that we actually have on our forecast, right? So, I'll give you an example. Um, I hear a lot from IT firms. They'll send me their capability statement and they're like, hey, we do IT services and products. Well, that's great, but generally speaking, we're not a command that buys purely IT products and services. We may have a few exceptions, but generally speaking, the IT piece is a part of a larger program, right?
Okay.
So if they're not able to communicate how their capabilities relate to something specific in our portfolio, it's really difficult to guide them or get the attention of any, program manager or project director, right?
Right.
Because they want to know, well, how is this business helping me achieve my goals, right? And speaking
Right.
as like a product director, program manager. Um, so when companies are seeking to find business with us, the first thing that I recommend that they do is take a look at our acquisition forecast, right? So for NAWCTSD, that is what we call the Training and Simulation Industry Symposium Brief,
Okay.
or TSIS for short, TSIS. And that's an annual event that happens every June. And that's when we re-baseline our procurement opportunity forecast. It's in a really good format, I think, because it looks better than a lot of acquisition forecasts that you'll see out there, which is just one giant spreadsheet with a bunch of gobbledygook all over it, right? So when you see our TSIS briefing, each opportunity has its own slide and it gives you the anticipated contract strategy. If it's known, it might be TBD. It will tell you the incumbent if there is one. It'll give you a very brief summary of what the requirement is. It'll tell you about the acquisition milestones, like when do we anticipate an RFP to come out? When is a contract award going to be made? And in some instances, it may also give you an idea of what the budget might be. In that particular briefing, as I mentioned, it's only updated once a year, but at every halt event. So PALT stands for Procurement Acquisition Lead Time, which is a really awkward acronym for what it actually is. So the PALT sessions are actually hybrid opportunities for NAWCTSD and industry exchange. And those happen every other month, second Tuesday of the month. Um, so if you're interested in learning more, then there's a link to sign up to attend a PALT. If you're not really sure and you just want to check it out online, you're welcome to do that. I always encourage folks to try to attend in person just for the networking aspect if you can. But that being said, the acquisition forecast is basically updated at PALT. Every PALT, if
Mhm.
we've changed something from our thesis brief, right? If schedules have changed, if an act strategy has been determined, we will push that information at PALT. It's captured in a spreadsheet, and we keep that updated on our website. So we are very, very open and clear with industry as much as we can be about the status of upcoming procurements. So when small businesses are in the audience at these briefings, or even if they're not in the audience, let's say you miss it and you just go back to our website and you download that information. You go, oh, okay, I see that this opportunity has, an acquisition strategy's been made, and now we have some maybe new milestones. Then that helps them to kind of understand where we're at in the acquisition process, as well as, hey, what direction are we going? Are we putting this under one of our MACs? Is it a small business set aside? Is it a hub zone? Is it still up for grabs? Is it a TBD, right? Do you have still an opportunity to shape that particular requirement? So when companies see that, and at every PALT, I ask them, help me help you. If you see something on this list that you're interested in as either a prime or a sub, let me know, right? And at that point, it's not me trying to figure out of all of our procurement opportunities, which one might be the best for you, because I don't know your capabilities like you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the small businesses are able to identify some opportunities of interest to me, especially the earlier as in the acquisition process, that can help me. First of all, I know that you're interested, and I can make sure that the teams who do the market research can consider your company's input, right? We can make sure that those companies know when a source is sought is being posted, or, if something has changed. So help me help you, right? In terms of the small businesses, looking at the opportunities that are out there and saying, hey, I think I have a capability that might meet that need. And either I'm interested as a prime or maybe they're interested as a sub. Either way, I want to know. So when when they're responding to a source's sought, for example, I want to make sure that they understand that the most important thing is usually we ask questions in those sources sought notices. Please, please, please don't simply respond by sending us your generic capability statement. That's not really meeting the mark. We want you to talk about address the questions, right? Because we're really looking for something very specific most of the time. And so answering those questions in as concise a manner as possible is great. If you provide your capability brief on top of that as like a, hey, here's some additional information if you want to know more, that's fine. But first and foremost, please make sure that you're answering any questions that we have posed in the sources sought. Additionally, where I see small businesses sometimes go wrong when responding to a sources sought, they may say, hey, I want to be a prime. I've got these capabilities. And maybe the requirement is set up where we're looking for, let's say there's like 3 distinct capabilities that a company might need to have. And let's say a small business comes in and they say, we've got these 2. And they don't talk about that third capability. If they don't talk about it, how they're going to bring that to bear because it's still going to be a requirement, right? So
Mhm.
what I want to see there is how are you going to meet that requirement? Usually it's by bringing a team member in. So
Right.
identify that team member if you can, and identify that, why they are, the best choice for that particular capability. Because at the end of the day, when a program manager is reviewing these responses with his team, his or her team, they want to know that the companies are going to be able to meet the entirety of the requirement,
Sure.
right?
Makes
They
sense.
when they see a partial answer, they tend to dismiss it and identify that response as not capable.
Wow. No. So you gave us a lot of information. I've been typing in and right away as you were speaking. You also answered some of my upcoming questions, which were what events, industry days, or matchmaking centers do you recommend? So you went through that. We told us about Pulse and Thesis. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, yep.
That's
There's more
great.
though.
So are there
We
more
have a
industry
lot
day
going
events?
on.
Okay.
Yeah, we have more
That's
events.
what else?
One in particular that's coming up, and oh my goodness, you're going to really test me here. But it is called the ITSEC conference. So
Okay.
it's I don't even have to spell it out very often, so I always bungle what it's called. But it's basically an inter-service um, training and education conference, right?
Okay.
So it's the largest conference that has to do with simulation um, in the world,
I see.
and it
Inter-service
happens.
slash industry training simulation and education conference.
There you go. Yes, that's it. Yes. Also, you can find that on the info sheet. Um, so that particular event, it is an annual event and it always happens the week after Thanksgiving. So it is right around the corner and I always attend that event. I've got quite a list of meetings set up, one-on-ones with small businesses, some that I have never met before, some that I have met, but they've got some new capabilities that they want to show off. Some of them have booths, some of them do not. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to maximize the time there and meet with as many of them as possible. But that is also a phenomenal opportunity to network and actually see what's out there, see what some of your competitors are up to. So that ITSEC conference is one of the key conferences that my command participates in. So other events that are really important for the audience to know about, especially if they happen to be more innovative firms that are in like the R&D realm. So for those companies, I really would uh, ask that they connect with the Central Florida Tech Grove. So the Central Florida Tech Grove is a result of a partnership between NAWCTSD, who's a node on the Naval X network, if you've heard of Naval X. So it's between NAWCTSD and University of Central Florida Research Foundation, or UCFRF. So we have this partnership intermediary agreement between NAWCTSD and UCF, and as a result of that, part of what was born was called the Central Florida Tech Grove. So Central Florida Tech Grove is interested in those innovative, cutting edge technologies, and they do things like they've got showcases for Innovation Harvest Day. They have cyber showcases. They host prize challenges. Um, a lot of really cool stuff going on there. So if you go to the Central Florida Tech Grove webpage and just look at their events tab, it always has so much going on. It is very, very busy. So, and there's lots of opportunities to participate in the events. Some of them are in person only, but there are a vast amount that are hybrid or virtual. So it really does offer something for everybody.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
For businesses who are unable to attend in-person events, how can they still effectively network with decision makers at NAWCTSD?
Yeah, so that does get a little trickier,
Right.
right? But attending the Pulse virtually is one way to gather information.
Mm.
And then there's the opportunity to follow up. Usually, what companies will do is if they identify a particular opportunity of interest or if they have a question, they will come to me and they'll say, hey, I heard about this. Can you connect me? And I do my best to connect them to the program point of contact and see if they can have a conversation. That is a difficult thing to do because a lot of folks, we're busy executing our day jobs, which is, for program managers, they obviously have a lot on their plate. So it can be difficult to get one-on-one time with those folks if you're not physically at an event. So that's why I recommend to small businesses, like I recognize it's not possible to come to all the events. That's really just a bridge too far. So make use of the virtual events, but every once in a while, come to one of these events in person if you can, because, for example, at Palt, once we wrap up the briefing and the information push, we have what's called quick chats, which basically means our leadership, our program managers, myself, my deputy, we all hang back and we make ourselves available to talk to industry. And so just that, have your elevator pitch ready because if you get that time, you want to be quick, you want to catch them with a hook. And if that's not something that is in their particular purview, they can refer you to somebody else who's probably also in the room at the same time, right?
Right, 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 right.
So, so the virtual piece, it's a bit difficult, but I don't want to diminish its part in our communication. It's absolutely vital because before COVID, we didn't do any of these events virtually. Everything was in person or you're out of luck, right?
Mm.
Which was really difficult for small businesses to make determination. Do I go? Do I not go?
Right, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the best ways for small businesses to establish long-term relationships with prime contractors working at NAWCTSD?
You know, my recommendations to most businesses that are looking to partner up with a prime, first I like to say, okay, who are you already working with? Because sometimes it's just a matter of saying, well, yeah, I worked with, GDIT on XYZ project. Okay, let's see if we can keep that going, right? Because you've already established, maybe even to a small extent, but you've established a relationship and a connection. If companies come to me and they're like, "Hey, I haven't partnered with anybody. I'm new to this," but if they have something that I think is really, worthwhile and certainly something that primes would be interested in, I don't necessarily recommend that they start with like the Lockheeds and the Boeings, right? Because they tend to have established vendor pools, subcontractor pools. They've got relationships with a lot of businesses and they have very rigid um, processes. So it can be very difficult to break through to those types of bigs. So I recommend looking first at, hey, who are some other small businesses that are experienced, that are already doing business with NAWCTSD or NAVAIR? And seeking them out and saying, hey, I've got a complementary capability that I would like to talk to you about. And they tend to be much, much more willing to have those discussions, and they're easier to kind of form relationships with. So that's kind of a softer target to go after. And I know a lot of people think, oh, I've immediately got to start talking to Lockheed and Raytheon and Boeing, and I would dissuade them from doing so because it tends to be a lot of uphill battle in getting the attention because they're already kind of saturated. So targeting some of those um, experienced, mature small businesses that are already working as primes with the Navy is a better entry point, in my opinion.
And I want to say this because again, as someone who I have this 10,000 square foot overview or 10,000 elevation overview foot, I um I know people who've been on Boeing's list for 2 years and haven't gotten a phone call.
Yep.
And so maybe Leslie can't say that, but I can say that from industry that I know many, many people who went through and jumped all the hoops, did all the things they asked for, and they still haven't got a single phone call. Um,
Yeah.
so I do agree. I like to work with organizations where I can talk to people.
Yeah.
Just it makes it a little bit easier because when you're just putting information to a database on a computer and submitting it and hoping and praying, that's just not a very effective strategy. So.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another way for companies to identify potential teammates, potential primes that they may want to work with is, hey, when you come to any of these events, such as PALT, there is almost always a social that follows later that evening in the same area, right?
Right.
So, for example, we usually have a Navy League social that happens after every PALT. Um, so, companies that attend the Navy League social have the opportunity to not only network with some government folks, but it is highly attended by industry. So,
Mm,
you can get to know some folks I mean, even on a personal level. Right? Because we like to do business with people we like and people that we have things in common with. So you might end up striking up a relationship that maybe you're not doing business with that particular person, but now they get to know you a little better and they're going to connect you with somebody else in their network. And the network just feeds itself,
right.
right? Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, what role does your office play in supporting small businesses, and how can businesses best leverage the resources you offer?
So, as I mentioned before, kind of that help me help you is probably one of the most effective things. If you identify an opportunity and you let me know, um, then I'm armed with some information
Mm,
so that when the integrated product team approaches my office to say, hey, we're kicking off market research, we want you to either review a report that we've written, or we would maybe sometimes they start with us. They say, "Hey, we haven't done any other market research, but who do you know
mm,
that does this kind of thing? Can you at least
mm,
get us started there?" So our Office of Small Business Programs helps the integrated product teams or the IPTs to identify opportunities for small business, to identify small businesses that might have exactly the thing that they're looking for, right? They may come to me and say, hey, we've got this need. And I go, hey, I know three businesses that do exactly that thing. And so that's a great starting point for you to reach out to those companies and just have a conversation. Um, so we support them that way. We also support them if they are having trouble. Let's say that they are in a subcontractor relationship. Maybe they're not getting paid. They can bring that to my attention and I can facilitate that discussion with our contracting folks and make sure that they put a priority on it to get that resolved. I've seen that happen a handful of times over just the past year. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars that was owed to a small business subcontractor, and they were really kind of they were at the end of their rope,
mm.
and didn't know what else to do. And I said, why didn't you call me earlier? We
Right.
got it resolved within like 2 days.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah.
important. That's good to know. Thank you so much. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. Are there any specific tools or training programs you recommend for small businesses to improve their federal contracting knowledge?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So I think a lot of your audience already knows about some of them. Um, you know, I, and it might be a bit of a mixed bag depending on which office you reach out to, but
Right.
we do have across the DoD, there's the Apex Accelerator, of course. We do have our small business development centers. As a matter of fact, I will be at one of the small business development centers with my deputy tomorrow here in Central Florida, and he's going to be giving a briefing on like our 8A portfolio. What kind of work do we have that's in the 8A program? So certainly taking advantage of those kinds of events and resources where they do provide some training, especially the younger or the newer companies who may need to have a few things kind of set before they step into either certainly into the prime role, but definitely before that, even the subcontractor role. So we could be reaching out to your SBA office, your Small Business Development Center, Apex. Now, one that's of utmost importance, and I think you mentioned this when you looked at the information on the info sheet, was cyber readiness. So
Hmm.
that's a big thing, right? The cyber CMMC requirements are rolling out fast, and companies need to be ready for that. So we do have resources that can help make sure that you're ready for it, right? There's something called Project Spectrum, and these are free, no cost services that small businesses can leverage to determine, okay, well, how would I score if, if I was getting a CMMC evaluation, where do I need to make changes? What are my shortfalls? That's really important as well, especially as this new CMMC requirement is going to be rolling out in the very, very near future.
Nice. Looking up product spectrum now. That's the first, that's, I've never heard that one before. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Sure.
Can you share an example of a small business that successfully transitioned from subcontracting to winning prime contracts at NAWCTSD? And what do they do
Ah,
right? You don't need the names, but just
yeah,
what do
yeah,
they
yeah,
do
yeah.
right?
So this definitely happens, right? And it usually, it's usually that they are bringing some sort of a capability. Let's just say we have a large project that includes curriculum development. So
Okay.
curriculum development is typically something that our small business base does very well, right?
Okay.
So if we had a larger program and a small business was the subcontractor on the curriculum development for that, um, they got to prove themselves by being responsive, doing the work, um, and then also making sure that before they take that leap to want to become a prime, that they really have an understanding and an appreciation for things like data requirements, right? Working with the government is not easy. And so there are a lot of nuances that they need to be aware of. So if they're working with a prime that can help them, maybe shepherd them along, it doesn't have to be a formal mentor protege agreement, but I have heard from some businesses that, in spite of them not having a formal agreement, their prime acted as a sort of mentor for them.
Mm,
So making sure that they really have a full appreciation of like, what does a prime really have to do, right? So it could
mhm.
be anything from import, export. It could be, data requirements. It could be cyber. Uh, it could be cost accounting. There are a lot of requirements that the government has for their primes that subs are kind of, they're kind of insulated from. So finding a prime that's willing to mentor you in some capacity, or even taking advantage of some of the programs that are currently out there that are, more official,
Sure.
such as the SBA's Mentor Protege program, which is designed to do just what I described. And then there's also DoD mentor protege program where large primes typically are looking for an innovative small business to help them bring that to their solutions. It's another great way to kind of foster that subs development and get them ready to be a prime.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that. You got excited when you said that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff. It's
I
good stuff.
I like that one's a good. That was a good one. What trends do you see happening in training and simulation that small business should focus on to align with NOC future needs?
Ooh, this is such a good one. And honestly, it's something that's a bit of a struggle, and I'll tell you why. So, we're a buying command, right? We don't create the requirements.
Hmm.
So, our customers provide us the requirements. It's basically like, hey, here's our shopping list, go get it for us. So if a company comes to me and they're like, hey, I've got this really innovative approach, or I have this new AI enabled whatchamacallit that you can
Right.
add to a system that will give you this data and it will enhance training performance and all that, it might sound really amazing, right? But if it's not a requirement, we're probably not going to prioritize that because it may drive cost up, that we have a set budget. It may be that, hey, that's great, and maybe we could absorb it in the budget, but maybe there's some risk to it because it hasn't been proven out. It's that risk of the unknown. Program managers don't like risk. They want to minimize risk. So when you're introducing something new, something innovative, cutting edge, that can be a little scary, right? You may come
Mhm.
to the table thinking, I've brought the government something wonderful, and there's no way they're going to turn this down. It's the best thing since sliced bread. When in reality, they may look at that and go, well, that hasn't been tested against our system. We're not sure if that's going to break things. Um, so in that instance, there is a trend to start using more innovative approaches. I know I've already mentioned AI. That's certainly one of the tools that we are starting to look at a little more closely through this partnership with the Central Florida Tech Grove, because in some instances we'll get maybe a little bit of money from a customer to say, hey, I'm kind of interested in some of that new tech. And we want to see how that would actually play out, you know, if we connect it to our system. What does it do? Does it break things? What kind of problems does it introduce? So if you're interested in kind of bringing something innovative into the space, I'm interested to hear that, but I don't necessarily want them to jump to the conclusion that that's what they should be providing in what I call our regular portfolio of programs, unless it's specifically asked for.
Right.
Um, but if we're really early in the acquisition cycle and you're like, hey, I've got this great thing, I don't think you guys are thinking about it or even asking for it, but have you considered? So communicating with the government really early in the process. So when you see an opportunity on that thesis slide or on that halt briefing and you say, hey, I think I've got something that could be of value here. Let us know about it sooner rather than later so that we can better advise the team to say, hey, they've brought something that might be of benefit. Let's see if that's something that we can work into the requirements. And that way, we can try to leverage innovation, but we have to do it early. It does take quite a bit of time to finalize requirements and things like that. So the earlier the better. And then aside from that, making sure that you're paying attention to the events at the Central Florida Tech Grove, including prize challenges where, like I said, we get money from customers trying to solve a particular problem through whatever innovation. Could be AI, it could be AR, VR, um, it could be lots of different things, live virtual constructive requirements, things like that. So the future is here, but unfortunately, our customers and our requirements owners haven't really kept up with that, right? So we have to be able to show them what's in the art of the possible and before we can influence the requirements that they send to us to go execute.
That's interesting. You mentioned you're a buying command. How do we know the difference between a what's the other type of command called? If they're not buying, what is the other one called? You see the one that
Um,
sets requirements. Is there a name for that?
I don't know that there's necessarily a name for it, but there are only 10 buying commands in the Navy, of which NAVAIR is one of them.
Okay.
I came across one the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but it was interesting. I went to a website. I was researching something for a company, and so I went to it was a Navy entity. I went to this Navy entity website, and it was like, okay, they don't buy anything, and they made that very clear. And so when I looked at their website, I was able to find that they send their requirements to, I think this one was NAVFAC. They sent it to the Naval Facilities Engineering Command to do the buying.
Mm.
So yeah, so not all the Navy commands out there have a buying authority for programs. They do send those to the acquisition professionals at the buying commands.
No, it's interesting because when we look at it, we assume everybody buys.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
right, you're like, well, they're the Navy, they buy. You're like, oh, we don't buy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not always. Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking like really small, like purchase card things, yeah, I think a lot of places have the ability to do that. But actually managing an acquisition program, no, not everybody does that. Those are really specialized skills that go into that. So that's why there's only 10 buying commands.
No, that's good to know. That's great to know.
Yeah.
Um, for businesses not yet working with DoD, what steps can they take to make themselves more competitive across federal agencies?
First, they need to really ask themselves why they want to do business with the government. Because a lot of times there's this misconception that, well, the government has a lot of money and they have a lot of buying power, which is true. But it doesn't mean that it's easy to do business with us. So you really have to go into that decision with your eyes wide open. And I would also recommend, a healthy commercial base to lean on while you build that DoD presence, because it can be quite an uphill battle. It's very, very competitive. And you would also probably want to do a market analysis on the particular on the particular market that you're targeting. For example, if you're an IT firm, you got a lot of competition. Not only do you have a lot of competition, there's a lot of existing contract vehicles out there that are already set. They already have sometimes hundreds of primes. And so that can really be a steep climb. Okay, but let's say you've done that, you're a small business, you've done that assessment, you feel good about your commercial sector, you're ready to expand into DoD. Um, I would probably say figure out who in DoD, first and foremost, who in DoD buys what it is that you're selling.
Mhm.
And don't try to go after everyone, right? You may take a shotgun approach at first to see if you get any bites. But if you find a particular buying command that does buy what you sell, focus on establishing a relationship with one, maybe two buying commands and get more comfortable and start to understand kind of that rhythm and what's required before you start to try and move beyond that. Like get really good with that one buying command, right?
Okay. Okay.
Before you try to, what somebody described it as once was boil the ocean. Don't try to boil the ocean, right?
Uh,
You want to focus, 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 focus.
I like that. Don't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, let's turn over to you. Can you share the most impactful lesson you learned from your career in government contracting?
Oh, just one.
Okay, I'll give you two.
Ah, man. Persistence is key, because learning acquisition is it's like a lifelong thing, right? Even though I feel very confident that I know what I'm doing, there's always something new to learn. Things are always changing. It's very dynamic. So, stay curious, um, and keep learning. Um, there's an amazing array of opportunities out there. When I came to civil service many, many years ago, I didn't even know that DoD really had buying commands. I had no idea there were regulations that governed that. It was a whole new, very, very unfamiliar world that I just had no idea existed, honestly. So it was very eye-opening to begin the career as an intern and just learn about the ways in which the DoD does business. Some of it has certainly been frustrating, to see something that you think is so maybe cumbersome,
Mhm.
and harder than it has to be, and looking for opportunities for how to improve it, how to make it better. A good example is, instead of having folks go on, a scavenger hunt for information, um, that's why I created that info sheet, right? I know that's a very small example, but if you can set that example and you get good results, then you can share that with other commands, other sites, and they may implement something similar and they're not having to reinvent the wheel, right?
Right. Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Um, what's one thing that small businesses don't realize about the contracting process at your agency?
Ooh,
I got
so
some good
many
ones today.
things.
I got some good
Yeah,
ones.
you do have good ones.
You know?
Um, I think there's a lot of, here's what I hear a lot of, misconception that we've already decided who we want.
Mm,
I think it's a perception problem. We have a perception problem. So I'll tell you 99.9% of the time, we really don't know who we're trying to get to, right? We were really truly trying to identify additional sources. We want competition, but every once in a while, we really just it feels like we take a beating because some of the comments that we get back are, oh, the way that this is written, it's definitely written for XYZ company. And it's like, it's really not, right? W Point those out, right? If you say, hey, this is limiting competition, sometimes we're blind to it, right? Because we're in the thick of it, and it's an entire team that's putting all of these requirements documents together, and they share it with the contracting folks, and they're trying to write a contracting strategy and a solicitation around it, to maximize competition. And sometimes we just don't know, we don't see the warts. And so that's why it's really important for industry to provide comments. Um, Sometimes companies think, oh, if I complain, then somehow they're going to be blacklisted. That's not a thing.
mm.
It's not a thing. I've been doing this for 27 years, and I can assure you, nobody's gotten blacklisted. It's just not a thing. So if you've got concerns and you have hard questions, please ask them. Don't hold them in your back pocket and pull them out at the last minute. Then we don't have the opportunity to affect any change. We really do want to hear from you. We really do need to hear those hard questions. We need to be challenged. And that's the only way that we can improve. So definitely provide input. Don't be shy.
I would agree to that. We all feel like as if we rock the boat, right? We're gonna stir the pot, and no one wants to
Yeah.
stir the pot, right? Because we
Hey,
don't know. We're not. We if
yeah.
you've never worked for government and you're on the
Hmm.
outside looking in, and you're like, you've heard all these, like to your point, misconceptions and rumors,
Yeah,
and you don't know what's true and what's not true.
that's right.
Yeah. What does the
Yeah.
day in the life of the Office of Small Business Programs look like?
Oh, hey, so for anybody who's on LinkedIn,
Uh-huh.
I actually have a newsletter that I pushed out back in April. And it is exactly that. It is a day in the life of the Office of Small Business Programs. At that time, I was still considered a deputy director and I was on my own. So that's the only thing that's changed since then is now I'm the director and I have help. But it's really funny that you asked that question. So if you really want to know, that article will tell you, but I'll give you a quick summary. So, uh, I usually start my day around 8. You know, I got to get up, walk the dogs, do the thing. Then I hop online around 8, check and see like, okay, well, what kind of crazy do I have going on in my day? Do I have anything on fire in my email inbox? And try to just clear what I can clear. And then I immediately tend to jump into, okay, I've got program requests. Those are kind of high priority, right? If a program team needs something from me, it's because they need to support an acquisition. I've got to respond to them. So that could be anything from hey, we've got a solicitation for a woman-owned small business and we need some assistance in writing the evaluation criteria. We want to make sure we get it right. Okay, so that might take up some time. And then I also interact with, the larger NAVAIR Office of Small Business Programs. So 3 times a week, we meet as a group. And we talk about all kinds of things, right? Initiatives that we're trying to move forward, training that we're trying to push, anything that we're trying to maybe standardize or improve. Lots of process improvement going on right now. Um, I act as a mentor and a sounding board to some of my counterparts in the different offices because we all have different strengths. And I encounter certain scenarios a lot more often than others. So they will call on me and ask for advice and insight. So there's that part of the day. At some part of the day, I'm also following up on industry requests. So that could be like cold call emails. It could be specific requests about a specific opportunity. So I've got to provide them some data back or recommendations on who they may want to connect with. Um, it could be sitting in on a source selection.
Mm,
Right. So I do perform source selection evaluations whenever we have a full and open competition that has a small business participation factor. I'm usually the lead for that, evaluating that portion of the proposal. So
okay.
a little snapshot.
I like that. I like
But
that.
yeah, definitely check it out if you're interested in reading more. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And I did publish that newsletter, like I said, back in April. I am way overdue for a new one. So that's on the radar.
Okay. We're looking forward to that new
Yeah.
one. Um, what's a favorite success quote or mantra, and how does it apply to small business success?
Ooh, let's see. Man, you really are full of the good ones today. Um,
I just came off of my conference, and so I'm on a you caught me on a really a high. We just had 3 days of
ah,
excitement, 500 people, 24 agencies, 32 exhibitors, uh, so 48 speakers, and like
yeah.
3 or 4 networking events. So we had a great week last week, and so you're my first guest. Coming back off of that.
So I think I would apply a mantra that actually, it's something that I apply to myself personally because I'm a yoga practitioner. I used to teach yoga, and
Mhm.
one of the mantras that I really really liked was persistence and practice makes progress.
Mhm.
And I think that that is also very, very applicable to small businesses that are seeking to do business with the DoD because you're going to encounter no. a lot. You're going to encounter dead ends, probably a lot. But persistence will pay because eventually you will find that command that is looking for what you're selling. So persistence, patience, and keep practicing, right? Keep reinventing yourself. Keep, you know, keep trying to get better, right? So the more let's say you set up a meeting with a customer and it doesn't go well, right? Your delivery isn't spot on. You weren't on your A game. Okay, maybe you need to take some training,
Mm,
learn about, how best to deliver a message. Um, Maybe it's going to Toastmasters, right? There's a lot of different ways that that could manifest, but practicing and improving is what's going to move the needle
mm.
on success. So
I
you
can,
have to keep at it.
I keep at it. I keep at it. Um, let's change over. What's a recent purchase that you've made on Amazon?
Oh, hmm. Well, we have Amazon deliveries all the time. What is the latest thing that I've bought? Probably dog dog treats.
Okay. Okay.
Because we are a two dog household here, so definitely a family of pet lovers.
Okay. Dog treats. There you go.
We
That's
love to spoil them. And
nice.
yeah, we got some rescues, so they need extra spoiling, so dog treats.
Okay, dog treats. There you go. If you were not doing this job, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh my gosh. You know, I do often think about what do I want to do in retirement?
Okay.
And there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot
Um,
of hobbies that I really enjoy and I just don't have time for. So I already mentioned yoga. So,
okay.
I mentioned that I used to teach yoga, but I did give that up in 2020, for various reasons, but more so that I needed to practice myself more so than to be a teacher. So I would probably get back into dabbling into teaching yoga. I also started about a year ago dabbling in some pottery. So,
Okay.
yeah, I got a bit of an artistic side.
Okay.
So I do like to spend some time creating things. I make a lot of gifts for people. Quirky little like plant pots and with fun faces and like stuff like that. So I would probably do more of that. And I wouldn't mind volunteering, especially for, um, rescue animals. Near and
Nice.
dear to my heart. So,
Nice. Nice. That's okay. No, that's nice. That's nice. Any odd jobs or places that you worked at that we might not ever guess?
I used to work at a surf shop
Oh, really?
when I was going to college.
Uh-huh.
So I did everything from, ordering custom surfboards to putting together custom skateboards. And the most fun part about that job was we also had like, clothing retail as well. And I used to be able to go to the annual surf show and I was a buyer. So I would get to go walk around with somebody else's money and actually buy stuff to put
Really?
in the store.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
pretty
so
cool.
that was super fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So they just
Yeah.
trusted you. You said you were in high school?
No, I was in college. Yeah. Yeah,
Still, they trusted a
college.
college kid to go
Yeah,
just go buy whatever you think makes
they
sense.
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess they trusted that I was going to pick the stuff that would sell.
Sometimes I wish that that was the case in a government contracting, they would trust younger people to make decisions for buying
For real, right?
because, things like podcasts and YouTube and social media, as you see, I've been trying to get that to go over well, and it hasn't gone over well with some of the decision makers in government. So,
Yeah, yeah, they're sometimes a little stuck in their ways, and so fresh blood
yeah,
can sometimes help to embrace the newer concepts.
there you go. I love that. Why do you call yourself a Jedi Master?
Oh, so that was actually because, um, so when I was an office of one, I would beg, borrow, and steal any kind of help that I could get because this job is a lot, especially all by myself. So I would often ask our procurement group to let me borrow their interns for about a 3 month period. And one of the interns that I had working with me at the time, no matter what question he asked me, like I had an answer. And he came to me one time and he was like, "Oh, I've gone to this resource where you told me I could find this and I just can't find it." And I said, "All right, well, let me take a look." And I pulled up the website and I did whatever I did. And I went, "Oh, well, here it is." And he went, "I swear, you're like the Jedi Master of small business. Like you have the answer whenever I have a question." And I thought it was fun. It stuck. I put it in my signature block because, government tends to be a little dry. And so I was trying to bring a little levity and smiles to folks. And it's funny that using that in my title has gotten a lot of attention, a lot of, smiles and like, "Hey, I noticed your your title, Jedi Master, and it made me smile," or "I think that's cool." So I don't know. I thought it was fun, and it's a little tribute to one of my interns.
No, and we met obviously at Tech Grove event, and
Hmm.
from the day I met you, I thought you were a blast and your personality. And it's interesting because Robert Greene, who wrote 48 Laws of Power and amongst other books, but he
Hmm.
says that we all used to have these characters that we played beforehand, and we've kind of gotten away from that. And I encourage my students to have a persona, like a character
Yeah.
about them. So I think that's really fun. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I tell people I'm labeled as the fun man of GovCon. And so,
Ooh, I like it.
yeah. So many people that went to my event, they go, Eric, someone said to me, they go, I asked some people because it's my first event. What is the difference between Eric's event and other events? They go, you will not have this much fun anywhere else.
Hey,
So I take that as a badge of honor.
yeah, you
Huh?
should. You
I wear it as a
should.
badge of honor because what some other people said was having people like yourself, right? Having them in an environment where they can feel comfortable and be more themselves allow for better engagement as opposed to here's your
Yeah.
capability statement. I'll take your document. Okay, it looks good, right? Go to the website, review the ISIS, review the PTAL,
Yeah.
right? As
Yeah.
and so that is a hard way to do business.
It
Um,
is. We spend so much of our time working.
right,
Why can't we have a little bit of fun with it?
right,
It's, you know, it makes it more enjoyable. It makes
yes,
people more relatable.
yes.
It makes people more human.
Makes it, yeah. And I think we all are. We just forget that side. Like
We
we kind of
do.
forget it.
We
Yeah.
do. We do. We put our work persona on
Right,
and
right.
and it,
Yes.
it can be a little tough.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We go into work persona. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
totally.
So we're gonna close out. Thank you. This has been great. This has been great. If you could give small business owners one piece of advice, 30
Mhm.
seconds or less, what would it be?
Know your capabilities and know which markets you want to go after because there is a lot of wasted time in misaligning your capabilities with the wrong mission sets. That is my number one piece of advice.
Leslie, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
It's been
welcome.
fun. It's been a
Thanks for
blast.
having me.
Oh, oh, I'm happy. I'm happy. And I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation and seeing you at some more events at Tech
Yeah,
Grove.
Yeah.
And we want to help out with some of those competitions and help inform our community about those prizes as well. So excited
Awesome.
and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, bye now.
All right.